Hi everyone, Howie and Kaylyn from Pure Mind here again. Hope you're having an amazing day. And today's Thursday, so a good end to your work week. Today we want to talk about something really, really important. It's something we hear all the time from our clients, but also something that Kaylyn and I have kind of gotten lost in a little bit in our own personal journeys. And that's turning healing into its own form of stimulation. So healing almost becomes that thing that we're addicted to or getting that dopamine hit from. And it's really interesting because, in a weird way, even though healing can be this really intense and kind of brutal process at times, it can also start to become familiar, just like everything else that we kind of get enmeshed with. So we want to talk about how can we heal in a way to where we're not becoming like overly obsessed with it and still actually getting to enjoy our lives and participate more fully in our lives. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Kaylin, before we start?
Yeah, I think too is just kind of putting a parameter today about really being open to redefine your relationship with healing and what you believe healing looks like and represents. Because I think that for so many of our clients, it almost becomes like a healing loop or a trap where they're constantly trying to, analyze and find meaning and pick apart. And it's almost like, I always give my clients the example of becoming like shadow slayers, where we always think there's like something else that we have to like essentially find and defeat before we become healed. And truly, when you really are present in your life, when you really are becoming more self aware, things come to you naturally and organically. Like you don't have to go find the next shadow or the next block or the next wound to heal. Life will kind of serve you up the proper opportunity or experience to really look at it and begin to heal. So I think today, before we get into kind of like the meat and potatoes of the training, is really just to come in with an open mind and really be open to a different perspective on what healing could represent for you or just the healing journey in total.
Exactly. And you kind of nailed it with the real time processing in the present moment and not needing to go dig up the skeletons in your closet in order to heal. It's kind of this trusting in the timing and how your life unfolds. Because if you're actually present in your life and you trust that, hey, if those shadows need to surface, they will in the proper time. And if I stay present, then I don't have to be looking backwards into my past to heal. I think is super important. And this is a good segue kind of into our first point, and it's the difference between being present and processing. Now, processing, I think, fits into presence, right? So sometimes we're out and about and we're feeling great. Sometimes we're out and about and we're feeling triggered, or we're feeling anxious, or we're feeling uncomfortable. And I think if we don't turn that into a problem to solve from the perspective of the mind, allow our body to feel exactly as it does, that actually keeps us anchored in the present moment and keeps our nervous system open through that feeling of safety to actually process those emotions. So I know sometimes when we start working with things like ketamine or plant medicines and we're kind of going into these deeper opportunities of healing, we can kind of think that if we do it there, then we're not going to have to face anything in the present moment. Like I already checked that off my bingo card. Now I don't have to deal with it. I actually think working with these medicines is beautiful, but it's kind of like doing healing in a vacuum or in a simulation. Like you kind of know you're one step removed from your normal waking reality, but it doesn't always translate fully in your day to day. Like you could go have this amazing ayahuasca ceremony, for instance, and then come home and have the crap triggered out of you by your partner, right? It's like, what happened? So I think sometimes it can be really exciting to have this big, expansive paradigm shift and all these realizations and insights. But if we can't stay present in our day to day life, those things don't really have a foundation to land.
Yeah. I will say too, and this is just a personal experience too, because I'm so guilty of this, especially when we start working with altered states and, using medicine as a doorway, is that, the minute we kind of start to have, that insight or kind of like mystical experience unfold, we automatically want to put words to it. We want to put meaning to it. We want to make sense of it. What does this mean? What is this telling me? And, first of all, that's just our human makeup. So if you're doing this, completely normal, right? But the problem is, as soon as we kind of get in that paradigm or we start operating in that way, we limit what's possible and we limit what's trying to happen in the body, in the subconscious, right? On a nervous system level, on a spiritual level. And, I think that something that can be even more powerful is really using presence as a portal way. Because when you are present with whatever the experience is unveiling for you, there is a deeper level of intelligence in a way that, information is reorganizing that's really gonna fulfill and heal your system essentially in ways that the conscious mind cannot. And simultaneously, what I also see is this sense to kind of like overanalyze and make meaning can actually show up as a way of avoidance. And it's sneaky, right? Because like in our head, we think we're doing the work. Is this my sister wound? Is this my father wound? Is this because whatever you're trying to put meaning to is why you're feeling the pain? But you think that by naming it, it's going to keep you from experiencing the sensation of pain, of sadness, of grief, rejection, right? And what we know and from guiding thousands of people through these containers and clients is that intellect isn't healing, right? It's really not. People can know a lot but be completely disembodied. So then like what is the missing piece? It's presence. It's awareness. It's creating enough capacity in the body that I can stay with this no matter how I'm feeling. Even if it's not my preference, even if it's something that I would consider a bad emotion or a bad memory, my capacity not to abandon myself and be present with whatever my body is unveiling is healing. And then, if you really honor that and you create the safe space and container for your body to feel and emote whatever it wants, many times meaning comes later. But the minute you're in the activation, the minute you're in the wave, the minute that, you're gripping or bracing, isn't the time to try to transfer into the mind and start figuring out the why. It's about just creating safety to feel. And I think that there's kind of this like inverse or flipped kind of mentality that so many people have when approaching healing that really keeps them just stuck in looping and constantly trying to figure out meaning and analyzing and so on and so forth, when really it's a lot simpler than that. It's about let's be present, let's create safety, and let's just feel.
Beautifully said. And I think the reason why the mind becomes kind of the first starting point, and like you said, it's almost like reverse. So if you think about it when you're young and things are overwhelming and you don't have the fight or flight really available to you because you can't just like run away from home,
Yeah.
right? Like you really are a victim of your circumstances when you're little. And this entrains or patterns our system that when my body feels overwhelmed, the only way I can escape is into the mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's into a fantasy about the future of my life. Like one day I'll be out of this house or one day I'll be free, right? So we find safety in the mind. So the body's now not really allowed to feel, but that's more from a survival instinct. So it starts off as actually very intelligent that we do this. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
wrong. It's just we escape into the mind, then eventually things get chaotic in our world, and our mind doesn't feel like a source of safety anymore because we can't envision a future where everything's okay. So now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well, the mind's not safe. Like, where the hell do I go? Well, then all that's left is the present moment. And it's actually your opportunity to come back to the body because you're not a little kid anymore. Sure, could you still be in a toxic relationship or something that you really feel like your life is threatened? Of course, and I'm not diminishing that. But most of us at some point actually regain our agency to return to the body because we're not actually literally under threat moment to moment. So coming back to the body and allowing your body to feel without enmeshing with over identification with the body, I think is the subtle balance. So you don't
Yeah.
want to suppress your emotions, but you don't want to become overly identified with this is all that I am, is this body. So one way I like to think about it is I have a body, I have a mind. I am the observing awareness that gets to hold both.
Mm-hmm.
So the body's allowed to feel and the mind's allowed to think, and I don't have to mess around in that process. And if you stop tinkering with it so much and going down all these rabbit holes of trying to get your body to feel differently, the knot naturally loosens up because there's no resistance to it anymore. It's
Yeah.
like the body wants to untangle, But we come in and it's like, stop feeling that way, and it closes off again. And that knot gets tighter again. And it's the same thing with the mind. I shouldn't be having these thoughts. It's over identification. It's like, that's not you. That's patterning or programs running. It's allowed to be there, like in the periphery. But when we start claiming it as truth, because my body feels this way, there must be something wrong with the moment right now. That is the quote unquote lie that we buy into that creates the over identification and then keeps us stuck in these healing loops. We're just
Yeah.
feeling like crap over and over and over because we keep saying there's something wrong with our body having that experience.
Yeah, and I want to pull in a piece because it's sparking a conversation I had with the client yesterday. And she literally said to me, I feel like I'm going crazy. Since I started my healing journey, I feel like I'm in worse shape, like I'm going insane. And raise your hand if that was ever you, right? And I think that, yeah, right? We all feel it. But I think what we're really experiencing isn't the fact that we're going crazy. I think we just become way more aware, right? It's like all of a sudden, like we kind of like wake up and we start seeing things that we never really noticed before. So it's like same world essentially, but such a different level of perception. And the way I see it is like as awareness almost like sharpens, kind of hindsight 2020 goggles on, right? It's like we start to notice our patterns differently, our behaviors, our relationship, how our body responds, right? So it starts to feel kind of overwhelming, like the world gets really loud. And I think that because it's really loud, then it kind of goes into the other realm that we're speaking to, where then we want to put meaning and there's some kind of connection and it's something spiritual, when really it's like you're becoming more aware so you can get deeper intimacy with your body. It's not about then it becoming more analytical in the mind. It's about like, okay, wow, like now that I am noticing things, what's happening inside my system? How present can I be with the fact that I can feel my heart racing faster? I can feel the fact that this person kind of gives me anxiety, or it's hard to talk, like whatever it is, right? But the thing isn't to create meaning again or really try to like have deeper insight about why it's there, but just to really create a deeper capacity to experience it, right? So with awareness, you have to understand that it's automatically going to shift and expand perception. And then with that, we want to start creating enough safety in our body to be present with that new expanded awareness, right? And then with that, it kind of trickles into having enough awareness, safety in the body to really then integrate or create change, right? But if you don't have all three of those on board, I feel like your healing journey or whatever work you're doing is just going to kind of stay surface level.
Exactly. And like you mentioned with like the feeling crazy, it's like because awareness, because of the way we're patterned, heightened awareness focuses on more problems.
Exactly. We
Oh,
see
it's
it
a
all.
deep state. Oh, it's this. It's the government. It's like how much of that do you want to put your energy towards, or can you just allow your mind to have that freak out if it wants to? Allow your body to feel totally scared about everything that's going on. That's allowed too. And then you, being the space that holds it, can say, that's fine, body. I don't need you to feel different than the way you do. Mind, I don't need you to think different than the way you are. But I'm still the one that's captaining the ship. So you can ride in the car kicking and screaming. That doesn't bother me. I don't need you to be different to come along for the ride. But I'm also not going to hand over the keys, which is what we do in
Mm-hmm.
this process. It's like we
Yeah.
start buying into all the conspiracies and all this stuff as truth because we're trying to create a sense of safety. If I understand everything that's going on, then I won't have to feel afraid.
Yep.
Versus, what's wrong with feeling afraid? What's wrong with the mind going to worst case scenarios? If you're not buying into it as truth, who cares? It
Right.
doesn't mean anything. And sure, there might be a situation where you're around someone that's sending off really weird, creepy energy or something, and your body picks up on it, but you'll know the difference. It's like, I don't want to be around that person. Great. It's practical. But you're right. We like to connect all these spiritual dots as another form of bypassing the moment and the
Mm.
way the body feels. well, if I see all the angel numbers, that must mean I'm on the right track, and then I won't have to feel like this forever. It's like you won't feel like this forever because everything changes. That's what impermanence is. If you stop messing with it, it'll change on its own.
Yeah.
But if you're tinkering with it and you're saying, I refuse to allow this experience to unfold, it's going to take more time because the experience is important. You might not like it. I mean, gosh, you and I have gone through so much stuff that we don't like. But there is a certain point where it's like presence over preference. Why do I have to like it?
Yeah.
And it's a really weird question to ask yourself. Why do I have to like it? And it's like, oh, I don't. So if I don't have the pressure that I have to like it is meaning anything about me, it kind of like, it's like, well, if it sucks, it sucks. But like, I don't have to make it worse by resisting the fact that it sucks.
Yeah.
Or I'm not allowed to go through things that suck. Like you're allowed to go through your experience, your body's allowed to go through its unfoldment, right? Its unwinding process. Your mind's allowed to go through its detoxification process as well. And if you're okay with that and you're able to stay clear and like even if my mind's freaking out, my body's freaking out, I can still choose how I want to respond in my life and how I want to participate that's anchored into my truth and my values. Now you can keep it on a steady course independent of what's going on. And that's the true detachment. It's not suppression or transcendence. It's just I don't overly identify with the aspects of who I am. I just
Yeah.
hold them and I keep going.
Yeah, and I think, it's just making me really think about like what shifted for me and like why we're having this conversation. And I notice this in so many of our clients too. It's almost like we try to hijack or override our human experience and almost like control and manipulate reality because we don't want to feel a certain way that isn't our preference. And I think that everything changed for me when I started realizing like I didn't have to be high vibe, or I don't have to hijack how I'm feeling or what's real for me in order to be like a good person or a spiritual person or to be doing the healing work. And something that has been the most powerful me for me, excuse me, is just learning how do I become a more resourced human. And we talk about this constantly because we're simultaneously doing this work together. And it's not about like having the perfect circumstance, but making sure that I'm nourished and resourced enough to show up despite what life serves up for me, and not saying that it's going to be perfect or it's always going to go the way you want or you're always going to get what you want to get, but you have enough trust and resiliency in your body and your mind and your spirit to handle any of it. And for us in our containers, like, that is the foundation of our work. It's not creating these perfected humans or these happy high vibe individuals. It's about creating enough resource in our nervous system for you to experience what it means to be alive and what it means to be human without having to abandon yourself every time something triggers you. That's healing. That's power, right? That's taking radical responsibility over your life and over yourself. And simultaneously, so many people don't want to do this because then instead of like saying, oh, it was, I always come back to this, my sister wound, my mother wound, whatever, instead of being able to blame it on that, it's looking at, oh, I show up in a way that isn't authentic. I'm actually doing things that are self-sabotaging everything that I say that I want or I want to experience. So it kind of takes that victim blame and mentality out of it, right? And you have to really look at who you be and what you're choosing and how you're showing up. That's healing. That's power, right?
Well, the resourcefulness, and like you said, this is something that we are hitting on so much right now. Because if we can't do the basics with integrity and true love and care for ourselves, like how are you going to have the spaciousness and the presence to be triggered, right? And not have that trigger hijack your system. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was telling Kaylyn an example yesterday that I went the whole day working and not staying hydrated, like forgetting to eat, like not getting outside. Then my daughter gets home from daycare, and it's like my margin's already so thin that like if she's in a bad mood, it's like that trigger like just overrides my system so much more because I'm not nourished. Like I haven't created the spaciousness to be able to handle that more maturely. But that's
Mm-hmm.
on me. Like that's my choice. That's the part I actually do more or less have control over, is how much am I willing to prioritize sourcing for myself, staying hydrated, staying nourished, making sure I'm getting outside, making sure I'm connecting with my body and checking in frequently. You don't do that, no one, like, you're torturing yourself. You're making it so much harder. It's like trying to hike a really hard hill without water, or without, some sort of energy bar or whatever it is you would take on that hike. It's like, no, I'm going to do this without water and without food. It's like you can, and you will learn a lot from that, but you don't have to torture yourself. So you can control how much priority you put into making sure that your body is cared for and being honest. Are there certain things that I'm doing that make it a lot harder the next day for me to get back to a baseline to where I can stay present?
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't about shame, it's just about energetic math. It's like this particular behavior depletes my energy and it makes it harder for me to show up in the way that I want to the next day or the next week or whatever it may be. So I think getting really clear on that and taking accountability, not with shame, just this energy take, or this action takes more than it gives. This action in general gives more than it takes. If it, in general it gives more than it takes, maybe that's something I want to start incorporating more into my life. Because life's going to throw me curveballs. My daughter's going to come home in a bad mood sometimes. My partner's going to come home in a bad mood. And I need to be able to hold it and not turning it into a trigger party. So I think this is so important because, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, why do we even get kind of lost in this trying to change the way we feel? It's because we're confused about what we actually have agency in. We're
Mm-hmm.
not in control of life. Like, I'm sorry. If any of you guys know someone who's in control of life, like send me a DM and I'll look them up. Of course, there's seasons where things are more aligned. There's seasons where things seem like they're going ass backwards from the way we want them to go. That's been my experience. But as I've kind of come full circle in that, like there's seasons that are more aligned with my preference and ones that aren't. Clearly, I'm not fully the author of my story, but the influence I have is how resourced am I in my story? How much do I care about the character in this story and feeding it and watering it, right? And giving it sunshine? Doesn't guarantee anything, but if I'm not doing that part, it's going to be pretty challenging to get through some of the hurdles that come your way in this life.
Yeah, and last thing I want to add to that is that what I see, and I also was this person for years, is that we always put ourselves last, right? We make like going to the gym or spending time in nature, having like a well like rounded nutrition, like it's not important, or it will come after work or after my kids or after my clients, or let me just respond to this email, right? Like we've all been there and done that. And I had this sneaky kind of way that I was like, oh, it's because I'm in service though, like I'm going to serve my clients first, and I'm going to make sure all these boxes are crossed, and then I'll take care of me. Well, what that was doing was simultaneously just draining my life force, and it was making me so less resourced to show up in those roles in the way that I really could serve, right? Like I couldn't show up fully in my power, fully in my presence, like to be with anyone, because like my essence, my body was starving for nourishment. And the thing you have to realize is that like we are energetic beings, and your spirit, your nervous system, your mind really is like the foundation of your life, and you bring yourself everywhere, right? So taking care of yourself, being more resourced, doing the things that just light up your spirit and set your soul on fire just for the hell of it are important. And when you do those things first and you prioritize yourself and make sure that you're really kind of attending to your garden and making sure you feel good, well, then it simultaneously impacts and influences everyone around you. You show up at work better, you show up for your partner better, your kids, right? Your friendships, whatever it looks like. You will always be a better human when you are truly putting yourself first and your needs. And like I said, even things that just light you up for the hell of it, because it activates your essence, right? So my biggest invitation for people would be start small. Even like if this feels really foreign to you, it's like, what's one thing that you could do every day that deeply nourishes your system. And maybe it's taking a walk outside. Maybe you devote yourself to every day, I will spend 10 or 15 minutes outside, and do that for a week and just notice, what changes in my energy? Maybe you're like, hey, I notice I'm scrolling emails as soon as I wake up. What would it look like to have a cup of coffee or tea and have 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just being with myself and my body before I did that, and noticing how your system feels? And it's like the more you create these pockets of presence and experiment, whether it's, nourishment, activities, things that light your soul on fire, whatever, you're going to figure out more of what you need to be well resourced and well rounded, right? So start experimenting.
And to piggyback on everything you just said, I would say maybe this might be the biggest thing that changed when I was really lost in the new age spirituality of trying to manifest my vision board, where
Hmm.
I am now, is that the intention behind me doing a morning walk or drinking more water or eating more nourishing foods, doing things that are more creative, used to be so that I could stay in a high frequency and manifest my dream life. And that was the reason.
Yep.
So it was conditional. It's like I'm doing this to manipulate reality. The reason why I'm doing it now is so that I can be sourced enough to meet reality, which is a big difference in your why are you doing it. It's
Yep.
like I want to show up with as much spaciousness as I can to meet life as it is, not to guarantee that life meet me in the way that I want it to. And that subtle difference changes it from conditional to unconditional. I
Hmm.
do this because I care about my life that's alive. I care about this living thing. That's why I do it. I want it to have everything it needs to go through this very interesting adventure that we're all going through. But if it's going through tired and dehydrated and hungry and me bossing it around like it's a big pain in the ass, like how do you think it's going to do? It's not going to do that well. Life's
Yeah.
not going to just start getting easy all the time. I think we can all agree on that. So the only other option is to make sure that you're sourced enough to deal with the inevitable challenges that you're going to face and then actually get to enjoy the moments where it is easy.
Hmm.
Because that spaciousness, when things are easy, it's just like, God, like I'm just so grateful that it's not a challenge right now. And that I
Yeah.
can just enjoy this while it's here. And when a challenge does inevitably come again because everything changes, I'm not worried about that because I know that I'm resourced enough to meet life as it is. So big difference. And it's not about not having goals, not having a mission. Of course, we care, but I think you actually show up way more honest when you're here in the moment instead of always in some fantasy future that you're neurotically trying to manifest.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. Last thing, too, I would just add is that, I think we can become creatures where kind of like we're always like seeking for the next problem, like I said, or the next like obstacle to solve. And this really ends up creating this pocket of space where instead of really being intimate and present with life and taking the aligned action, it's like I'm thinking of a client. I'm sorry, and I'm trying not to bring too much into her story, but it's like every time we get to a breakthrough, every time we're about to actually like do the thing that's going to change her life, she brings in another level of problem, right? So if you notice that you're someone who's doing this, right, and you're constantly looking for problems and you're constantly going on to the next and the next and the next, what could be even more powerful is just looking at your life right now and playing with the idea that, like, what if everything was perfect? What if I actually didn't have anything to solve, anything to fix, anything to figure out? Then what would I be doing? What would I be focusing my energy on? Who would I be choosing to be? What would I be doing? That can actually be way more powerful than trying to solve a problem. And it can
Exactly.
honestly end up closing timelines, literally like collapsing time, because instead of being so hyper focused on what's wrong or where you think you need to be or where you think you're going, you just start actually embodying and becoming the thing.
Exactly. And just one thing I wanted to add to that point, because I think it's super interesting. As you create more spaciousness, like there's a problem with thinking the mind's a problem.
Yes.
Or there's a problem with thinking that what the mind thinks there's a problem, that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's like at what point it's like, mind, do whatever the hell you're gonna do. I do not care. It is not a problem to me at all. You can go worst case scenarios. You can have 9 different voices talking. I don't care. Like, none of it's a problem. Like, talk away. Body, same thing with you. Feel whatever the hell you want to feel. It is not a problem to me. As soon as there's no problem with the experience at all, the mind doing all of its gymnastics, the body freaked out, and it's just like, it's all good, guys. Like, there's no more resistance from me. I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't need you to be one bit different. Paradoxically, that's what allows everything to detoxify on its own. That's what allows your body to move energy more freely. It's what allows your mind to actually clear and reprogram itself because it's no longer being seen as a problem. The fight has ended. There's no one to fight with anymore.
Yeah.
Like the mind likes to have 9 different voices fighting with each other from different perspectives. Well, if I had a positive mindset, then my life wouldn't be this hard. Maybe there's a level of truth of introducing possibility to help balance out the spectrum of thought, right? If you're always negative, it can be helpful to start introducing it's possible to think positive too, right? Like reintroduce that to the mind. Same thing with emotions. If you're always depressed, introduce hope, right? Introduce these felt experiences to the body so it knows it's possible. But that's kind of like a preliminary phase, and it's an important one because when we're lost in negativity, of course, like we got to break out of that. But past that point, your mind's still going to go to negative programs and thoughts. Your body's still going to feel like crap sometimes. As soon as you're like, none of that from this point forward is a problem to me.
Yeah.
All of that can happen. I can carry it and I can still choose what we're going to do. I'm not going to let any of that hijack my decision making process anymore because it's not true in the sense of it's a true interpretation of the present moment. It's something running from the past. It's filtering the present moment. So a lot of the time it's really not true at all. So it's like, great, you can talk, but I'm not buying into it as truth. But I don't need to shut you up because it's not relevant for me to shut you up. Why would I fight with someone when I know what they're saying is not accurate? Who
Right.
cares? Let them have their moment, right? And I really feel like for myself, I certainly don't do this perfectly. Like, of course, I get hijacked by triggers, I get hijacked by thoughts, but there's a lot more spaciousness around it now where it's like I can be triggered, I can have negative thoughts, and I can still choose to respond with grace. Whatever that means. That doesn't always mean being nice per se. It could be firm and being direct, but it's like it's not coming from the trigger. It's coming from what do I need to do in this moment from a very clear place,
Yeah.
which is that anchor point of awareness. So just to recap kind of the progression here, awareness is where it starts, but awareness can just open up like awareness to everything that's wrong
Yeah.
because our mind is conditioned to looking for problems, right? Like it's in survival mode. So that's okay. If you want to shortcut past all the BS, honestly, let your mind be trying to figure out all the problems of the world. You don't have to buy into any of it. It's truth. Go ahead, freak out about all this stuff. I'm still here. Like it's okay. Like I can still decide based on my values what direction I want to go. And I guess that's just one final point I want to hit on this because it can be like, well, then where am I deciding from? If I'm not deciding from thoughts or if I'm not deciding from emotions, what am I actually choosing from? Like what's my compass? And that's what I would say your values. What are the things that are important to you independent of the way you think or feel? So if you have a kid, that's usually a really easy example. You might not feel like taking care of them, but you're going to do it because you love them.
Yeah.
Your health, your spirituality, your creativity, your service and contribution, your hobbies, your connection with nature, your self-care, right? These are value areas. So if we're choosing an alignment with our values and not based on how our body's feeling in the moment or what our mind is thinking in the moment, it kind of become not that important in the decision making process. You're just carrying them with you. You're wearing a different color t-shirt while you nurture your values.
Yeah. I agree with that too. I think it's really connecting with your truth, right? And your truth is so connected to your values. And really having enough spaciousness where you have the opportunity to reconnect with that sense of self and then move in alignment accordingly. I 1000% agree with that. And it is hard, like we said, like how we said too, when you become more aware, it's like you become more aware of everything, right? So you start seeing all these things you want to change and fix and that you never noticed before. And another layer just to pull in is sometimes just simple awareness is enough to shift something. Not everything has to become this big healing spiritual lesson or journey. Sometimes literally awareness enough is powerful enough to shift perception into how you relate and how you move and how you see it. So just because you notice something doesn't mean that you have to go, 8 layers deep into it and trying to figure it out. It's like, oh, I kind of noticed that. Interesting. And then just become more curious in your life. When does it show up? When do I move from that way? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
just be present. If you're just present in your life, healing organically and naturally unfolds. That's what I realized. Like every season of my life, I don't have to be devoted to healing something, right? And like
Exactly.
when it is time for me to look at something deeper or really to move or process or to revisit even something I thought I healed before, life presents it in the perfect time when I'm ready to do so. But I don't have to go seeking and searching and like trying to find the next thing to heal, right? Because then I'm not on the healing path. Sometimes the most healing thing you can do is just be human. Just be human, live your life,
It
right?
was my great grandmother wound. It's like, dude, you didn't eat lunch. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have this ancestral pain. It's like, no, you're
you've been
actually having a heart
fasting for
attack.
7 days.
Yeah.
You probably
Like,
eat something.
honestly,
Like,
though, like,
so it is silly, and I totally got lost in that,
I did too.
doing
That's
all
why we're
this
laughing now.
crazy stuff while like really depleting myself,
Yeah.
and then wondering why I'm feeling the way I am. It's like, dude, you're not taking care of the basics. Like, of course,
Yeah.
this is going to seem a million times harder. You're
Yeah.
not, and I'm not saying life can't just absolutely bitch slap you either, and it doesn't matter how resourced you are. That happens too. But those are more of the extreme examples, right? Like day to day, outside of the extreme examples, if you're resourced, you should be able to navigate it pretty gracefully. Like if you're taking care of yourself and you care about becoming a better version of yourself, you should be able to see progress in that.
Yeah.
So you got to take inventory. Where am I depleting my resource? Where am I not prioritizing myself, like you were mentioning earlier, and filling my own cup? If I'm doing those two things most of the time, I should have enough spaciousness to meet life as it is. And then every once
Hmm.
in a while, bigger things will happen that it doesn't really matter. You're just going to get crushed. And that's an initiation. That's where the real healing, I think, happens. But so much of this gets caught up in the day-to-day things where we're confusing healing with just basic self-care.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you doing all this extreme stuff?
Yeah.
Like, like why don't you just take care of yourself and let it come up gradually? So it's funny, and I'm like just thinking about how many funny, crazy things I did in the healing journey, and then think it's all just this crap coming up from trauma, and it's like, dude, you're eating one meal a day for a month, like you're exhausted. Like,
And I just want to say too, like the whole thing with the healing journey, the spiritual journey, whatever it isn't to escape the human experience or to become less human, right? The whole point of being here isn't to become these spiritual beings who I'm in 5D consciousness. Like that's cool if you're into that. I had that phase too, but like that's not the whole reason why we're here or why we do this work. Spirituality to me is like kind of a way that we have a different like tone or flavor to our human experience, but it's not the whole purpose of it, right? We're still supposed to be here. We're supposed to feel everything. And, kind of coming backwards to what you were just sharing, I think the cool thing that does happen when you really are devoted to this kind of paradigm of healing and really being present and really allowing yourself to feel everything is that life moves through you in such a different way where like you can feel the peaks and the valleys, in any given day and not make it mean anything about you and not hang on to it. I had an experience a couple weeks ago where my dog almost died. She got really sick. I had to rush her to the emergency vet. I didn't know what was going to happen, and it was a lot on my system. And I'm so thankful because I've done this work long enough in connection with my body and becoming resourced in my nervous system that I was able to be so present with the pain, the sadness, the fear, all the things, and simultaneously also feeling this connection. I was telling Howie about it, this like connection like to God and the certainty of like everything was going to be okay. All these different emotions and sensations and waves and triggers like present at the same time, but I had such a different capacity in my vessel to hold it without making it mean anything about me. And because like I call it like energetic hygiene, because I have such a good relationship with this, it's like these emotions were able to kind of be felt, witnessed, and moved through. And within like the next day, I'm like smiling and laughing, telling someone about it, and they're like, "Are you okay?" Like that was a lot, but I didn't bypass my body, and I didn't bypass the moment. I didn't bypass the moment that I just needed to cry and be scared. I let myself feel everything fully so that I could have deeper clarity or room or spaciousness to move or even respond to the situation. Right? And like that's the beauty of this work. It wasn't that everything is perfect and like I'm having the best day. I was up till 3 in the morning terrified. And that was okay. I let that be okay. Right? So I don't know. I just think it's important for people who haven't got to experience this yet or maybe are afraid of allowing yourself to feel, because we also hear that a lot. I'm afraid that if I let myself go into the sadness that I will always be sad and I'll never not be sad again, right? And like I understand that being a very real fear, but you have to understand that if you don't create space and if you never allow yourself to be a witness of what your body's carrying, it's going to subconsciously wreak havoc on your life for the rest of your life, right? So
Exactly.
creating this relationship with your body, create a different intimacy with life, really is the foundation of healing, in my opinion.
And I think your example with your dog, I mean, like that's one of those getting bitch slapped by life moments, right? And those are the ones where you really get to see in real time how much you've evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, body, of course you're sad and terrified and
Yeah.
afraid. Of course you are. Like, I don't need you to be any different than that right now. Like, that's the moment.
Yeah.
Mind, of course you're going to worst case scenarios in your spiraling. That's okay. That's what the moment's offering. And I'm here holding you all.
Yeah.
And we're going to get through it. That's it. Like right there. Body's allowed to feel, mind's allowed to think, and presence is holding it. And
Yeah.
that's our multi-dimensional nature versus trying to predetermine meaning in a situation like that, or like looking for angel numbers to show you it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just be crushed.
Yeah.
Just be crushed. And if you can't, if your body's still too tense to open up there, that's okay too. Body, I don't need you to emote perfectly. Like if you're afraid to cry or if you're afraid to admit you're scared, like all of that's okay too. Like there's no way that you're relating to this that's wrong
Yeah.
because that's where you are, literally. How could it be
Yeah.
any different? It's way more delusional when we're trying to give predetermined meaning to these things or trying to find the blessing in it. It's like
Yeah.
just be crushed. Just be
Or what I
crushed.
did to create it. Like, what did I do to create my dog getting bloat? You
God,
know what I mean?
how
I did
shitty must my frequency be right now?
like, and that's the thing. Like, kids were like, "What did I do to create this?" I'm like, "Life is a co-creation. Like, I did not create my dog almost dying. That was
That's
just
what I
life."
mean. That's
You
the
know what I
part
mean?
that never made sense to me with manifestation culture. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes life just serves up something that's going to really push on everything. It's going to create a lot of pressure in the system. And is that your fault that that happened? Like that to me is insane to even think that. There's no way we could even prove that. Maybe it's true, but there's no way we can actually prove that. What we can honestly say is I let my body feel exactly as it did. I let my mind spiral. I let it have its internal debates. I allowed my system to plead with God. Great. All of that is allowed. There's nothing wrong with any of it. And to your point, when there was no problem with any aspect of who you are getting to have its full experience, the experience was able to move.
Exactly, because there's no
And you
resistance.
process in real time. You're not delaying the process through resistance. But I do think it's foundationally the awareness no longer turning any of it into a problem. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if the mind, if it's a higher perspective from the mind or whatever, anything that's a voice. And there was an interesting, just tiny tangent, an interesting concept that if there's even a voice, it's still the mind,
Mm.
because awareness is like shining a light. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't have a voice. So it's like it's still being filtered and translated through the mind. So what you're hearing is still the mind, which is fine. It's like have the nine different beings talking to you in your mind. But pure awareness is like all is well, it's fine, right? Like I don't need it to be any different. And so
Yeah.
that's fascinating.
No, I love that. And I think that's a really important piece to pull in because, like, awareness doesn't really have a perspective or meaning. It's just showing you something. It
Yeah.
doesn't say it's good. It doesn't say it's bad. It doesn't say it's right, wrong, ugly, whatever. It's just like, here is blank. Your mind, right, or our ego is the one who takes it and then puts meaning on top of
Yep.
it. So yeah, I think that part is so important. If you're like, well, how do I know what it is? It's like, well, if there's a meaning or a story, then it's your mind creating it. It's not
It's
just simple
pure
awareness.
witnessing.
Yeah.
And that's what unconditional love actually is refusal to look away.
Yeah.
That's what it means. It's not I feel like I'm on my honeymoon all the time,
Hmm.
right? And so as soon as we attach a concept like that is not a somatic concept, right? We're talking about a concept from awareness. As soon as we tie that to a somatic concept of like it's a feeling in the body, we have totally been duped in that perspective, because now we start chasing that and we start assigning everything that doesn't feel like that as being wrong or
Yeah.
not love. But unconditional love is a posture towards your experience, which is I will not look away, which is also saying none of it's a problem, because if it was a problem, maybe I would look away.
Yeah.
And so like with Jesus, and I again don't want to go too far into this, but like when people say he was the embodiment of unconditional love, he was the one who refused to look away from all the darkness going on.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't over there like just happy all the time. The guy was alive during really tough times. So I think it's similar with what we get to learn to relate to within ourselves first. Can I just witness my body's experience without it being a problem? Can I just witness my mind's experience without it being a problem? And then I still get to choose because I'm the source of my life.
Yeah.
Like that's more of it. And then again, the human's still going to hijack that process sometimes. That's how we learn. Like, whoa, there was a blind spot that I didn't know I had. And when we talk, going back to the healing in real time, the healing in the present moment, that's usually how it happens. Holy crap, I didn't even know I was holding that in my system until it was revealed in a trigger, and my body went, apeshit on that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whoa, okay, now we have something to play with here. So I think it's fun. Like I want to bring more levity to this whole thing. I know things can seem really dark and scary in the world, and I'm not diminishing that. But it really comes down to the way you feel within the body and what your mind does. And if there's not a problem there, then you can actually be of service in a way that's actually helpful, because you're
Yeah.
not filtering it through your own past experience.
Yeah. And I don't know why I just keep thinking of this, but something and I probably said it on a past training, but I really think that with awareness comes choice, and with choice comes power. And, the thing with awareness, like, we don't have it again to, like, create meaning or to create all these stories about why we have it. The awareness is really there to shine light on behavior, a pattern, a way of being, just something, so that we have enough agency and choice to move in a way that nourishes us, that is in alignment with our values, that's in alignment with our truth, our authenticity, right? So I think that if you can take these awarenesses that you're having and use them as to signpost as to, like, how you can live and breathe and move in a deeper realm of choice, then that is the healing work, right? You don't have to know why, it doesn't have to all make sense, but it's just giving yourself the spaciousness to really choose the life and the version of you that you feel called to be, right? At the very
100%.
simplest layer.
And I think foundationally, it's a behavior thing that awareness is going to influence the most. Because when we get
Mm-hmm.
back to the idea of resourcing, that's a behavior, right? So you can just look at your behaviors from a binary perspective. Like, does this add energy or take away energy? No
Mm-hmm.
shame in it, just like brass tacks. What does it do?
Yeah.
Okay, this one generally adds energy, this one generally takes away. That's a behavior level thing, right? We're in physical reality, our body taking action on something.
Yeah.
So if our actions are more aligned to resourcefulness as opposed to depletion, then we're going to be able to stay more available for the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to thoughts and emotions, I think those things don't need to be messed with that much. Because if it's like, okay, body's having this experience, that's fine. Like that'll blow over. Like, why do I have to mess with it? Like, am I resourced in it?
Yeah.
It still comes back to the behavior. Am I resourced in this without needing that to change? And same thing with the mind. So if you can get the actions aligned more with staying resourced, and you have enough space, the emotions and thoughts become less enmeshed in your decision making.
Yeah.
It's like whatever. Because how much energy do we spend trying to change emotions and trying to change thoughts? It's like, what if those things were just not supposed to be screwed around with so much? Like you're giving them way too much energy. Like you're giving
Yeah.
them way too much ownership of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind's a powerful tool. Emotions add depth to our experience. But are they the ones that should be deciding where you go? Probably not. That's why we're all over the place because we're listening to something that's all over the place.
Right.
But I think that covers most of what we wanted to talk about. Is there anything you wanted to add to close it
No,
off, Kaylin?
I think that we covered a lot, and I will just say if we do go pretty deep in these trainings. So if there's ever any lingering questions, something that doesn't make sense, something that you want to go deeper into, please leave your comments under the video, post them in our Q&A, and we will get back to you either which way. But we want to make sure that you always leave these, feeling like you have something to contemplate on, something that you can really implement in your life. So if there's any gray area, since we do cover so much, please just let us know and we'd be happy to support you. As well as, every Thursday night we have been doing our subconscious reprogramming sessions, which our community is just loving, you guys. So if you haven't yet got to experience one of those, please join us every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Standard Time in our private community. If you're someone here on YouTube and you're curious about how to work with us and what that would look like, please drop us a comment below and we would be happy to support you guys.
That's perfect. I appreciate you guys tuning in and thanks, Kaylin, for your time.
Thank you guys. Bye.